absolutely crazy that the Naughty Dog game is in this, because I think the Naughty Dog game is farther out than some other stuff that they could have shown. At least I would imagine it would be. But yet they showed this now. I think that they just needed to show that Naughty Dog did not just waste the last 4 years on a canceled project. I think that the narrative that Naughty Dog had only spent the last 4 years working on The Last of Us Factions that got canceled, and the only other thing Naughty Dog's been up to is remaking and remastering their old games. I think Sony's aware that that narrative is spread online and that people actually believe that, and they just need to shut that down. I thought that PlayStation just was incapable of reading the room, because earlier in the show, they made a big deal that The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is coming to PC, and it's like, stop making a big deal about this stuff. You are feeding the narrative that all you do is remaster and remake The Last of Us games. Dude, this is not going to help that narrative. We're so cooked. It's so over. And then they bait and switched it. They had us in the first half, I'm not going to lie. And then they came through with Intergalactic right here at the end just to shut that up, shut down the rumors. You thought we haven't been up to anything else? Here was a trailer for our new project, and the sci-fi rumors were true. So without further ado, let's watch this trailer. The suffering of generations must be endured to achieve our divine end. What? Dude, that's a haunting quote to start this with. I was thrown at first. I had no idea. At this point, no fucking idea what we're about to see. I didn't know for sure it was the Naughty Dog game until I saw Sony on the radio, which we'll talk about when we get to it. I love that this is captured in-game, like captured in-engine, because it's just a cinematic trailer. Like, we don't see gameplay, but we at least know the game will look like this, you know what I mean? Right now, we're looking real stylized. Porsche. I think it's very interesting how many name brand stuff is on here. If this was a different studio, I would say that the real world branding is just like shameless marketing tie-ins. How can we pay for this game? Let's fucking get some Porsche money. Let's get some Adidas money. Whatever. But the fact that this is Naughty Dog and Neil Druckmann, there is absolutely a narrative reason why we're seeing real world branding in this. I'm very interested to see what's up with that. I love this Cowboy Bebop stand-in right here happening on the TV. The juxtaposition between like the realistic stuff and this like 80s anime inspired programming here. I'm sure this is going to tie in thematically and narratively. Also, it was mentioned that Cowboy Bebop is in fact a big inspiration in this game. So Kira and Cowboy Bebop, big inspirations. Very excited about that prospect.
Something good?
No. Superstitions are the crazy rumors about what happened on that planet. These are facts. On the other side.
It's given Big Boss. It's given Escape from New York with the eye patch. Love the synth music, dude. Love the galactic synth. Yeah, the second I saw the Sony on the console there, I was like, okay, this is the Naughty Dog game. The rumors that the Naughty Dog game was going to be sci-fi, the Sony at least confirmed it was like, this is a PlayStation game, 100%. I wanted to like look at these discs. I wonder if there's Easter eggs on these discs. Also, apparently this takes place in an alternate timeline where we had greatly advanced space travel by 1986. So that's why a lot of the tech is kind of from the 80s. I really like that kind of what if alternate future situation. Music by Trent Reznor, by the way. All right, so I don't know if you guys remember this, but during the PlayStation's documentary about the making of The Last of Us Part 2 that they released around the same time that they released The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, they talked about how the original plan for The Last of Us Part 2 was that it was going to be heavily Bloodborne inspired. Apparently Neil Druckmann played Bloodborne, he was super inspired by it and wanted to kind of make Last of Us Part 2 similar to that. Not in terms of it being like a Souls-like, but from a level design perspective. Seattle was going to kind of be set up like Yarnum, where there was shortcuts and it's this interconnected map, Metroidvania style, unlocking shortcuts and backtracking and stuff like that. That didn't end up working out for the story that they were trying to tell. There was no way to set Seattle up like that and then have the kind of narrative control that they wanted for that game. So it didn't really end up working. And then also they wanted Last of Us Part 2 originally to be super melee focused and very little gunplay, mostly about dodging and using the knife. Those melee mechanics still did make their way into the game, but obviously you still did spend a lot of time shooting, and ultimately they made that decision because the gameplay was just too different from the first game and it just didn't make a lot of sense. They kind of scaled those ideas back and axed them for Last of Us Part 2, but I think that those ideas that they wanted to do are what this game is. I think that this game will be heavily Bloodborne inspired in terms of its level design, in terms of its combat, but not necessarily like a Souls-like in mechanics or difficulty. And I don't think it'll be exactly like Souls combat or anything, but I think the idea of like melee focus, she does have a gun here, she does have a blaster, so I do think there will still be shooting. I think there'll be a heavier emphasis on melee, and I think the level design will be a lot more like Metroidvania, interconnected world. This is a pet peeve of mine when a new game has an unnecessary subtitle. This is a new franchise. You could just call it Intergalactic. You do not need a subtitle on the first game or first movie in your franchise. You can just call it the thing. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. You can axe the subtitle. I don't care if it means something. You can just call this Intergalactic. The second, third one, so on. Yeah, Intergalactic 2, the Heretic Prophet. Cool. You don't need a subtitle on the first entry of a franchise. That's a big pet peeve of mine. The Heretic Prophet also goes hard, though. You could have just called this the Heretic Prophet, too. That also would have been sick. This game is probably 2026. I don't expect it to come out soon. I like anticipating things. But I hope this is also indicative of the mobility. I want to be able to, like, jump off of stuff. The console cycles are 7 years. Historically, yes. I do think this console cycle will be longer. I think this one's probably going to be 8 years. But yeah, historically they're 7. So if we're running by that logic, we're in the last 3 years of the cycle, and the last 3 years are always the craziest. So 25, 26, 27. Historic logic would say that the tail end of 27, we get the PS6. I kind of think it's going to be 28, though, this time around, but we'll see. But regardless, 25, 26, 27, the last 3 years are always the years people remember a console cycle for. So these last 3 years are going to be nuts. Really excited about this.